Hi everyone, it's Beverly Cole, back with another coloring tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to shade with Prismacolor pencils. I use two Prismacolor pencils, indigo blue and crimson red. Here I'm shading all of the spaces where I feel there would be a shadow. And when you do this, just put it where you think you should. If you miss some areas and you look at your art later and think, oh, I should have added some there, you can. You can still add it. Even if you've colored it with markers, you can still add the colored pencil on top. It doesn't matter which color I start with, the indigo blue or the crimson red. I layer them on top of each other, creating a purple shade in all of my shadows. I prefer to use two colors because you get more variety that way. It's more interesting than a flat purple, although a purple would work. So I use a gentle circular motion, not pressing hard because you don't want to press down the tooth of your paper. You want to be able to go in there with other layers of medium so that in the end they all blend together. Now here I am adding the crimson red on top of the indigo blue, and you can see the purple that is being created. And you can purchase just these two pencils. I'm going to leave some links below so that you can go ahead and do that if you prefer. Or a set of 12 would be great. You can make lots of colors by layering them on top of each other the way we are here. Here you see I colored some red where there wasn't any color before, and I'm just going to go back in with my indigo blue pencil to make that as well purple. So it doesn't matter which one you use. I have a lot of little areas that I put some shading or some spots when I drew these pieces of fruit. And I'm going to tell you later what they actually were supposed to be. Right now they're oranges. And I don't know why. I guess because I live in Florida. Maybe that's why I decided to make them oranges this time. But anyway, that little top there looks like a navel on an orange. So I filled that in also with a shadow. And now I'm going to blend the two colors together. I'm going to show you a couple ways to do that. This method, which is absolutely my favorite, is to use a paper stump and some mineral spirits, which I just keep in a little jar. I don't use Gamsol, which is an artist's grade. I don't know if there's really any difference between that and this odorless mineral spirits that I can get by the quart at Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart for that matter. I just put some in a little jar and it lasts me a long time. So I just dip my paper stump in and I blend. You can see that the paper stump absorbs the mineral spirits enough so that I can go for quite a bit before I have to stick it back in the jar. And you'll notice also that the mineral spirits leave some dark areas which will evaporate and your true color will come forward. You can see it on the right side of the basket there that it's a little bit overly wet. Now here's another way that you can blend, and this one's more portable. Just use a blending pen. This is a blending pen that I've had for a long time, and I've actually refilled it with alcohol by pulling out the nub or the nib. And I use an eyedropper or a pipette, and I just drop some alcohol in there and lay it on its side for a while, and it just gets absorbed for both ends of my marker. It works for me, and here you can see I've blended with both methods and it looks great. I think it looks great without any color, but we're going to go ahead and make these look like oranges today. So here I'm using my mid-tone, which is called Spanish Orange. That's a Prismacolor marker, using the bullet tip, coloring in the entire image. And if you missed the first video on how to color with alcohol markers, be sure to check it out. I'm going to link it to the end of this video. And you'll see some techniques and tricks that I show in that video when it comes to using the markers. And I will repeat some of those here, but I'm not going to go into detail. You can just watch the other video. So this is my mid-tone, like I said, and I'm using the bigger end, the chisel end, to fill in the larger areas. Saves me some time, and alcohol marker blends so great. And I'm leaving a spot for my shiny area where this light is shining on my shiny fruit. And I went ahead and decided, in case I forget, because the older I get, I tend to forget things much more often, I decided to put a circle to remind me to leave that shiny spot. And I try to make all of the shiny spots on the same side of the fruit to show where the light is shining from. Sometimes I don't even bother worrying about where the light is shining from. You can do it whatever you want. This time I actually said, okay, the light is shining from over there. There's my circles on all my fruit. Now I'll fill it in with the Spanish orange. My first layer of color. And we work in layers. I love working in layers because you can think and you can change things and add things, and that's just how I work. So this is the medium color, the middle color, the mid-tone for our oranges. And this will be the color that will tie all three different shades of yellow and orange. Well, actually there's four because I included red. This will be the one, the main one that will tie everything together, and you'll see how we do that. Now I took, this is actually called orange, and I'm coloring in my oranges, and I'm also coloring in the deep shadow areas. It doesn't matter because we're going to put layers of color in those shadow areas. So now the oranges are going to start to look like oranges. They kind of look like oranges in Florida before they color them. When you see the trucks full of oranges pass by, like 18-wheelers full of oranges. And they look so orange when they're all together, but really they're kind of pale when, you know, the juice oranges and stuff. So I prefer them looking like navel oranges that we buy in the grocery store. So notice that I'm making another circle to remind me where I'm going to blend into the white shiny spot, the highlight on my oranges. Just another reminder for my brain. And here we have them all colored in with the orange. So back to the Spanish orange, and we will blend the two together. There's some alcohol there that makes it look kind of dark. Once that dries, you can really tell where they're blended, and very nicely blended, I might add. Just use little circular motions where the two colors come together and kind of scribble around. Now I'm adding some canary yellow to tie the white shine into the Spanish orange. And now I go back with the Spanish orange to blend in the edges of the canary yellow. So you go back and forth blending where colors come together. It's that simple. Now I'm adding some red because it usually, with me, I like to add the two colors that make up the secondary. So these are the two colors, yellow and red make orange. So I use those to add some dimension and variety to my artwork. This is poppy red. I just add a bit, not a whole lot. And now I'll blend that in with the orange marker, where the orange marker and the poppy red marker come together. And I decided at this point that my oranges needed to be much more orange. So I am adding more orange into the orange areas. So more layers of color. You might, when you do your marker coloring, you may get the color right the first time. I just tend to work in layers. It's just how I do things. I like to work in layers. That way I can change things and add things. Like in my collages, I can add things and take away things. And even in pastel. With pastel you can add to a certain extent, but then you have to take away some before you can add more. So it's a little bit different, but I love working with layers. So here's the orange, and look at them, they're looking really orange now. I love it. Love it. Very orange. And it's sad to say, but Sparkle and Sprinkle, who used to sell my digital and rubber stamps, is closing their doors after like 20-something years. But Margaret is such a sweetheart, and she wants to spend more time with her family, and I could totally understand that. So I will be selling my digitals as soon as I get my act together in that way. I will let you know when they are available to you, along with some other things I have up my sleeve. I'm really excited. I feel like once a door closes, another one opens. That's just how I look at it. So anyway, here's the oranges. We're adding the Spanish orange along the edges of the new orange to blend it all together. And I think they're starting to look really great. And now for some blending of the white with the canary yellow. And I go over the white a little bit with the yellow just to tone it down a bit so they're not kind of like jumping out at me, you know, those shiny spots. Once this is completed, we're going to add some texture to our oranges. I put a piece of scrap paper underneath to catch any of the ink that may be pressed through so the ink has somewhere to go. And I'm making texture, orange peel texture with little tiny pressed dots of blender pen, which is actually little tiny dots of alcohol, taking away the color. One thing you want to remember is to never open up your markers and add alcohol to a colored marker. You will end up with no color. I've done it, believe me, I know. So really only fill your blender pen. Now I'm going to choose some colors from the Nuvo alcohol markers to do the basket using my chart. If you find this chart online, please let me know where it is. I looked for it, can't find it anywhere. So now I'm filling this in with some Butterscotch Nuvo marker. And all of these colors will be listed below in the description so you can find them. Coloring in all of the little shadow areas again, couldn't hurt. And the entire basket. You'll see me also use the same technique to leave a highlight on the basket by circling an area. I think this color is a little too close to the color of the oranges, so we're going to have to fix that. And we will. So you could just color over this without any shading at all, and that blue and red shading will do the job for you. Here I decided to add some texture with pencil. Drawing lines in the direction that I think the wood grain would go on these baskets. Using some of the crimson red, and you know if I'm using crimson red, that indigo blue will follow. Just a suggestion of wood grain. So you can use your pencils on top of your markers on top of your pencils. They work great together. Now remember, these are Prismacolor pencils. They are clay based. So that's the basis on which I'm using the blending pen and alcohol and the mineral spirits to blend them. I will try some of the other pencils that I own in the other videos just to see how they work with this method. Like Caran d'Ache or some of the other makes of pencils that I can't think of right now because my brain can't remember them. So here's the blue, and notice I'm not really going over every red line. I'm just putting them in the same area. It's enough to fool the eye into thinking that this looks more like wood. Not using browns, not using grays, we're using color. Now we're using brown ink though to blend the pencil. If it blends with a clear marker, it should blend with a color marker, right? So I'm using a marker that I believe is called Bale, and I'm coloring in the basket. And this is also taking the basket away from that butterscotch color that is so close to the fruit. And you'll see as I work the layers of pencil and marker on this basket that it's going to make the basket look a little bit more muted, and the fruit will jump out at us and look as fresh and yummy as we could possibly make it look with this technique. And I forgot to do something. Can you see what I forgot? I'm sure you can see what I forgot. We'll get to it. Now I'm just blending in that shiny spot so it's not so bright. Lightening up a little area here and there to make it look more muted and less butterscotchy. And it's also kind of highlighting the little staples that they use to make baskets. And a highlight of orange under the orange, reflection from the orange. Now, finally, that leaf that I forgot. This is apple green Prismacolor marker. And the pencils and the markers have the same names. So you'll find a Spanish orange pencil, you'll find an indigo blue marker. They just have the same names, which is very helpful. And this is some light olive over the apple green. And then, of course, I'll go back to the apple green to blend. And then I thought the leaf looked a little too brilliant, and I tried to tone it down with the green, olive green, but then it looked kind of flat. So I decided to add some of this complementary color, which would have, this color has red in it. When you put it with the yellow and blue that make up green, you're going to get a more muted color. Now I'm added texture with my blending pen. So you can layer pens and pencils, and I hope when you try this technique that you let me know how it turned out and what you learned, or if you have any suggestions for me, I can always use them. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see done here with markers or stamps. I have a lot of ideas up my sleeve for digital stamps, collage, and more, and I'm excited to share it all with you. I got to get that store open. So come back, and when you try this technique, if you need to come back and look at the video again, it's here for you. Just subscribe and it'll pop up in your subscriptions, and you can find it, or you can go to your history and find it as well in YouTube. And hit the bell when you subscribe so that you don't miss any of the videos that I post. Thanks so much for coming to see me, and I will see you in the next video.